Hey everybody, and you're very welcome to this week's podcast, Empowering Family Health. And today on the show, I am really super excited about this conversation. It's going to be jam-packed and I'm excited already before it's even begun. Ashley Tier is joining us today, and Ashley Tier is a spiritual medium and a clinical hypnotherapist. Ashley, you're very welcome to the show.
Hiya. Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Joanne. I'm really excited, and just really important topics that I know need to be discussed and information that needs to get out there. So very important stuff.
Brilliant. And it's interesting, Ashley, because I was just having a quick look through your profile, and we've met a couple of times in Pat's Sana Network and on the Your Holistic Academy. We'll touch on them as well maybe later on. But I've been looking through some of your work and what you've been doing, and it really resonates with where my passions lie. So tell us a little bit about who you are, Ashley, and what it is that you really care about, what your work involves, and what it is that you're really passionate about and what you care about.
Okay, so my main thing is about if I have knowledge or information that I feel would be beneficial to other people, I'm all about getting that out there, because I've spent a lot of years on personal development, the spiritual aspect, really alchemizing my emotions and working on myself, healing myself. And through those extensive years of work, I have really found some amazing life advice, some gems, some things that when I learned it, I thought, wow, I wish other people knew this. So I'm on a bit of a mission now just to do simply that, for no other reason other than getting that information out there, because it's crucial, especially about the mind. Subconscious mind, how it affects you, and children also. So
brilliant, Vital. And when was your turning point, Ashley? Did something happen, or when was it that you got to see how important this information is and how we have the power over our mind? At what point in your life did you actually realize that?
Multiple. I'd say the first, it's kind of like those wow moments, and then as I progressed through the years, another wow moment progressed through the years, and it's kind of like it went in layers. But I think really the first one was when I went through a lot of very traumatic childhood, and also very destructive relationships, and I was in group counselling for Women's Aid, and see, I'm very interested in psychology, but not that I knew until that point. And there was a very interesting concept called Johari's window. And that was basically saying you had to write down how you are in the world, how you feel in the world. And then you had to write down how other people view you in the world. And then there was like 4 different windows, and it's like, what you know. You don't know what others' views of you, and it was all these concepts and then there was like your blind spots, and it was like taking inventory of your mind and your emotions, and I'd never done that, and I just thought that is really interesting, because it gives you a bit of space after you react. If you just react, I was very explosive, very reactive through that. I just didn't know any other way. That's how I lived my life, and that gave me a bit of space, a bit of pause, go, oh, wait a minute. Right, oh, so I'm reacting this way, and I'm jealous, and I'm twisted, and I'm bitter, and I'm angry at my father, and how I was raised, and all this. And I was like, right, okay. It's about taking responsibility and going, right, now what can I do about this? And one of the main things there, Joanne, was meditation. Meditation really, really helped me. But that was where it first started. I've had lots of those moments, really.
And you mentioned there about your view of life and then how other people see you. And I'm really lit up there by your explanation of it, because I discovered that for myself as well, because there is reality, but then we each have our own individual realities, and that's our truth. That's who we are, and that's how the world is for us. But there's different perspectives, and those perspectives or view of life, or filters as some people call them, are different for everybody. And that usually comes back to something that happened in our life, and you were talking about trauma. So can you explain to us a little bit about maybe trauma or things that happen in our life and how that sets us up for who we are in the future? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I'll use me as an example. My father left when I was 3 years old. He went and raised another step family. My mother has rapid cycle bipolar, quite a, debilitating mental illness, and she would cry non-stop for years. I'm not exaggerating by saying she was so devastated by my father leaving, she would cry. Now, how that affected me was it numbed me out. I was so used to seeing this that it kind of, as a self-preservation sort of mechanism, I would be quite numb then to my emotions, and she would say about her all men were bad and you can't trust men, and that caused me to not be very trustworthy in relationships because, and I've had all this bitterness and jealousy, and my dad raised in another family and we're neglected, and just bitter, twisted, jealous. I couldn't see past that. It was reactive emotions because I'd been just numbed out generally to my emotions, the loving side, and I found it very hard to trust. So, I will take responsibility. I wouldn't say I was a perfect angel in my relationships. I was very distrustful and jealous and twisted, but definitely whoever I got paired and matched with, whoever I drew to me, and how I allowed myself to be treated also was like two wrongs did not make a right. In fact, it made an explosion. It was awful. And I have enough respect for myself to think that I deserved any better. So whatever way I was treated, even though the alarm bells, your intuition's still there going, oh my, this is not right, this is wrong, didn't care, self-destruct mode. But that's how, I think it's maybe more of an extreme how that can affect people. And it's taken a lot of years of work to unravel that and really look at that, but it can be done.
And what I heard there, Ashley, is you spoke about your feelings being numbed. And I think so many people in the world have that experience but don't actually realize it. But part of that is it's a protective mechanism to keep us safe from all that hurt and trauma and overwhelm or whatever it is. But in doing that, we're also blocking out any goodness that can come to us, any love. So I think it's really profound that we really get that, we say we're going to ignore this person or whatever. But really, when we have this awareness of what's actually happening on a neurological level in the amygdala, in this emotional brain center, that it's not just switching off the bad stuff, it's switching off anything that's possible, even the good. So I think that's a really interesting thing that you mentioned about numbing the feelings. I had a look through your Facebook page, and there was a really interesting quote that you had up there by Teal Swan. I really loved it. It really resonated with me. And it said, so many adults are just very large children who are never seen and heard and felt understood and allowed and enabled to be. And that was Teal Swan. And Teal Swan was probably one of my first introductions in the whole world of spirituality, really having a look at who I am in this world and what it is to be human. And I read her book. It's called Shadows Before Dawn. That was the very first book, and I found it profound. Can you tell us a little bit about adults, that we still have that little child inside of us bursting to get out, and when we're reacting, as you say, it's usually that child self kind of coming out that we don't really know. We've no control over it. We don't know what's going on. It's just that rebellious child inside us. Can you talk a little bit about that and how the amygdala is working, the workings of that, how that's all panning out?
Absolutely. And there is some wee elements that I notice about, again, I've just used myself as an example, because and I think if anybody sat down and really took stock and really noticed who they are and how they react using me as an example, I have, through my childhood, there's different aspects and different facets to my personality. Some are beneficial, some are not. So one would be numbed out, cut off my needs, but another side to me would be very proactive, do, go, perfectionist. I will make sure it's right so I'm not getting any negative criticism. And this side has actually been a bit of a benefit in my life business. If I want to get stuff done, I'll do it really well. And then there's also like a really neglected child part, a bit like the part that you're speaking of. And they're all different sides, and everybody, there's certain sides that my best friend will see that nobody else will see. There's a certain, even the way I'm dressed, how I am here, this is not how I am in the house. This is my professional self, and that's okay. But believe me, I have a real goofy side. And I work in a nursery school with children, and I tell you what, even the other teachers and stuff, they laugh at me. I am on those scooters. I am hiding with them like a big Egypt, but I don't care. There's something to me that I actually realize from a higher perspective is that because I never got that childhood. Like I was cooking, cleaning, doing the finances, helping my mum out. She couldn't do any of this. As the youngest, I took on this role, very, very responsible. And it was a very big weight on my shoulders. It didn't have the childhood, teenage years. It was just an absolute nightmare. Not even go into it much. But there's a part of me that looks at me now as an adult running around with these children, having the best time. And I tell you what, there's not one thought of worry in my mind. And the way the universe conspired at the time when I got into working with children, this might sound, well, it sounds odd now to me. It's about how much I've changed. I didn't, not that I didn't like children, I didn't know how to interact with them. I wasn't working at said time, must be about 8 to 10 years ago, and I got offered a job in childcare, and I went, no, I don't know if I could, I don't know how to handle kids. And then I went, look, you've been offered a job, either you take it or you don't, and I went, oh, right, okay, rolling my eyes, and I found that I absolutely loved it. So from there, but I can see that to me, that's a bit like the universe had my back. That was my next step. And to see how much I loved it, but that's me. I'm living my childhood a bit, how odd as that sounds. And there's certain little things that I noticed, Joanne, about there's some special needs children, and they have some sensory issues, and they have to have like weighted toys, or they have to have a blanket, or they have to have a fidget. They're sensory. And I will notice, particularly with myself, and this is about like how it ties in with the Teal Swan quote, I will come in and I don't have a blanket when I sit on my sofa. I have a duvet, and this duvet is wrapped around me. I have it tucked in, and I'm sitting there like this. But I don't care. I love that comfort. I love that round me. And I look at this, I psychoanalyze myself all the time, and I look at myself doing this and go, yeah, you never got that in childhood, did you? Now's the time, but it's like a permanent hug.
Love it.
Because I recognize it in the children, I recognize it in myself. And it is about those different layers to the mind. That's sort of a subconscious thing that I do. But the more awareness you have, the more you begin to recognize these things, not only in yourself, in other people. So it's very, very interesting. I have it all going on, going, you're doing this because of that, and blah, blah, blah. But sure.
yeah, it's really incredible. And I think children are just, they've no, they're just carefree, and they have fun. And that's what I really cherish about children and childhood, and allowing them to be as a child, because, there's like nowadays just too many restrictions and telling them what to do, and not allowing them to be creative and be themselves, basically. And that's a massive, massive part of development in, who they're going to be when they grow up, and not conforming. Like they have, so many children are conforming to things, and, it's blocking off that whole creativity. And I think that's a massive part of, if we were aware of that, we could provide so much more. And look, parents love their children. Most parents do. They love their children, and they want the best for their children, but they're not necessarily aware of, how a child grows and develops, and how influential they are over their children. So, for many parents, we can't tell them what to do necessarily. It's from our behavior. So we have to walk the talk as well. So can you talk a little bit about that, about how parents as role models, and how we influence our children, and why that's such a massive, massive part of their development, allowing them to be creative and to be their best version of themselves when they grow up?
Absolutely. And I feel like the schooling system does need to change a bit. I suppose it could just be with how you teach, but it's more about, you can teach children to multiply this and memorize that, but whenever they become an adult, where's the life skill? Where is now, for example, if we had like a certain sum, okay, problem solve, well, what way could you do it? And just, it's more about gentle coaching and coaxing. And so they need to try and do it. Independence is a big thing, but also that creative mind, excuse me, that is the most important. That is going to be the most beneficial. And I feel like maybe the way this in general, not just my particular where I work, like everywhere, it needs to be more about involving that creative mind, because that is the mind that's going to help you in the future. And you know what? Children see adults as gods, and I know that might sound odd, but they take, because they're in the subconscious mind, which is purely literal, I'll even, a quick example again for me. I remember when my dad, when I was younger, about 5 years old, I was putting my head under the duvet, and he said, you know, you if you do that, you will suffocate and die, right? You know, just trying to get me to stop doing it.
Mm.
I took that, and I was absolutely horrified. Why would they make something so unsafe, for bedroom? And I was really scared to go asleep. But that's just a point. Like, you can say things, and I know we all have examples ourselves. If you say something to a child, they're going to take that right in. So literal. So, and it's this other thing about, there was different things about where you're raising your children. What I would say about that is, a child can never have enough love. It can never have enough nurturing. It can never have enough comfort. Never. Skin to skin is so important. I know we know all this now. But I'll use my particular nursery as an example. We were very much going in, and we changed to become, it's called a nurturing environment. And that was more about, children could stroke themselves. There's a wonderful thing called havening, and you could teach them maybe things like that, and it's all about them being able to regulate themselves and regulate their emotions, or if they really needed it, if they're a toddler, that you can calm them down, and how this is all positive. And then obviously now this whole COVID nightmare has happened. And I am concerned, and that's why I'm putting on free classes, in my school in particular, for parents to come in, because between the ages of 0-7, your children are so impressionable. That's them being imprinted for life. And I don't want to scare parents per se, because it's a lot of responsibility, but the awareness will just prove so crucial for your child growing up to be a well-rounded, emotionally balanced child. That's the emotional aspect, hasn't really been looked at in schools. I saw that it was going in that direction, but then with all this, it's like a back step, to be honest, I feel, and it's all about working to get that sorted and moved in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And children, they really are, they're like sponges. And so their brain waves are just so different even for taking in. And I think it's part of the universe, for children. That's how they learn for the first 7 years, as I say. They're really impressionable, as you say. So it's a really important time, a very, very important time around that time. And you're right, when you're talking about when they're in the schools and, they're learning geography and history and all of this, but they're not learning any life skills. They're not learning to, and it's all the same information that everyone's been given, facts and figures and all of this, but they're not been taught, who they are, what do they like better, what is they enjoy, whereas they've been told to go out and get a job, work really hard and save hard, and that same message has been given out there, and they're not really been encouraged to be creative and have a look at who they are and what it is that they really enjoy for themselves, and to do something for themselves rather than, because their parents may expect them to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, or following their footsteps. So really allowing that child to unleash who they are in the world, so that's what I'm really, and with the school system, I think it's really fallen down in that area. And then you were talking about this epidemic that's going on at the moment, and you're talking about touch. And I don't know, you probably know about the work in the HeartMath Institute. And how powerful the heart is, and that bonding, and the oxytocin, that the hormone that's released for hugging, and the 10-second hug, and how that is so impactful for children. But now with all these restrictions coming in, I was in the shopping centre there was it yesterday before, and every single shop you have to go into, you have to sanitize, there's an in way, there's an out way, you have to follow the arrows on the ground, and there's people at the front only allowing a certain number into the shop. So we're all conforming to all these rules, if you like, and our power has kind of been taken away. And I know, look, there's a safety aspect of that in terms of physical, not getting this virus or whatever, but it's actually suppressing our immune system as well, because the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So the immune system is, been suppressed. It's not been allowed to. It's taken a break, basically, all this hand sanitize and all the rest. So it's cutting down on that resilience of the immune system. And I'm really, and with the kids in schools, and I don't know how the kids are going to manage, because kids can't do social distancing. Kids need to be touched and all of this. And then, what's going on in the child care services, the nurseries and all that kind of thing? Because I know my sister has a young daughter and she's tearing her hair out. She's not allowed, she has to leave her blanket there and her suitor there overnight. And like, kids need that for when they're sleeping at night time. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that's impacting our children and parents as well?
Yeah. And I think I'll start off with the first aspect, and I will definitely dive into that, is 90 to 95% of adults that come to me with panic attacks and social anxiety disorder, when I regress them back, it's first day at school. First day. At 9 times out of 10, more than 9 times out of 10. And I just can't believe it near enough every time.
I just got goosebumps when you said that. Yeah, that's incredible.
And it's like, because the trauma of your child being so bonded to you, loving you, you're going into this strange environment, people you don't know, that child is not old enough, it hasn't developed logic and reason to understand what's going on. It's fear, it's abandonment, it's trauma. And that's why I've spoken to my principal and my vice principal. Look, we really need, because I've learned that information, I would like to get that information out there about how caring and nurturing we can be. So that's the number one thing. Now, on to all these rules and restrictions, I'll actually give you a quick example. I was speaking to a teacher the other day before we stopped for summer, and she was very, very fearful, very fearful. She would literally shake. Now, you have to come in and do your job, but if you're holding that much fear, it's not good. The children will pick up on your vibes big time. So, just discussing things with her, and we had some good chats, and I was, not trying to influence her, but giving her different perspectives to sort of work with, and she was really receptive. And this had went on for a few weeks, her being so fearful because she's young children as well. She doesn't want to catch anything and bring it home and all that. And she's been doing these restrictions and social distancing and bubbles and all this really, really stringently with her own children. And she told me a story the other day before we left, and she said, you know what, I think there's something in what you're saying, because my child, I think her child was 4 or 5, social distancing, we're able to have now another household over, which was the cousins, and they were playing out in the garden, on the tree, social distancing, it was all great, blah, blah, blah. And she said right at the very end, so they came back and I said, oh, did you just have a good time playing? Social distancing, you were great at it. And she says, yeah, everything was brilliant, but the best part was having secret hugs in the garage.
Go away. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
This was like, that was it. I just went, I can't do this, because
it's not natural.
They just need it. For her, she was just there. I'm being the best parent and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. But that for her was her example that really turned it for her. I'm glad she got that herself, because from the mouth of babes, they just, it's so, you're exactly right. It's so unnatural. And again, stand here, there's stickers here, go in, wash your hands. It's all, me as an adult, it's very eerie. It's very bizarre. It's very Twilight Zone. It's not a healthy atmosphere. But I know the only thing I can say, and the only great thing I can say, is I work in a fantastic school. I work with amazing people, principal, etc., vice principal, and we are a nurturing school, and we are going to, I know for a fact we're going to be looking after these children, but I can't say that everywhere. I don't mean that to scare anybody, but if I was a parent, I would really want you to have a chat with your teachers or your principal, or just to make sure your children are getting the psychological care, because believe me, this pandemic is nothing compared to this wave of children we are raising for the future. This is, our eyes need to be on this, not over there.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, all these restrictions and rules and everything, it's obviously to slow down the spread of this virus or whatever. But in doing that, it's having a massive impact on our mental health. So whatever about the physical part of the health, but the mental, and I think, in my opinion, that's been way overlooked. And we have a mental health crisis at the moment, never mind this on top of it. And then you're talking about our children and parents who have kids, they're going through all this fear and anxiety, and that alone suppresses the immune system. So yeah, I think, all the information, the advice that you were given there, and have a chat with your teacher and really be on the same page as your teacher and work something out together. We don't know what the future stores for us in the future, But once we're aware of what's going on and what we can do and giving ourselves power and not, you know, really having a think and asking, you know, what can I do, or, you know, to make this better, just ask ourselves rather than conforming all the time to things, because we have a lot of power that we're just giving it away all the time. Ashley, there was something else just to finish up. We're nearly come to the end. You done another, it was on a video that you gave, and it was about, it was Frederick, somebody that I can't even pronounce his second name, it's a Dutch, a German name, I think. It's you must, what's his name? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah, that's it. I love this quote, love it. And I think it sums up everything that we're talking about today. You must be willing to burn yourself with your own flame. So to me, that says, you know, there is hope. And, you know, we have our cup filled up from all our past experiences. And if we can empty that cup out and relearn and give ourselves power. So basically burning away the old and transforming into the new. Is there anything else that you want to add to that, Aran? Because that's a very powerful quote that you gave.
Wow. I know, like, I do a lot of psychology research and a lot of philosophy just because I enjoy it. I might sound strange, but there's such nuggets and gems and life advice there. And that was the quote, you know, you must be willing to burn yourself with your own flames, or else you're supposed to rise anew. And that really is about, I would even put that in as the light of your own consciousness. The best change work you will get is I'm such a big advocate of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
If you can move out, like one of my personal, I say them every morning affirmations is, I step out of victimhood into creatorship. I'm not a victim anymore, in whatever way I've viewed myself. When you take the power to take control, whether that be to seek additional help, to speak to friends, to look at yourself. In fact, really quickly, like I've put together an amazing, I'm not just saying that sounds terrible, an amazing online course that is just all about you becoming a more actualized person from the bottom up. There's a lot of work goes into it. And there's also the spiritual aspect, because I believe we can't, on this pie chart of life, we can't neglect any. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of them. And obviously the health that you're a big advocate of, Joanne, as well. But I think that's it, really. Just about, you know, looking at ourselves, and if you need help or support, you know, seek it. Find somebody near you, do some research, because I think in these times a lot of people will be seeking a bit of help, or do a good bit of research, listen to podcasts and things like this, because there might be just something there that you just needed to hear.
Yeah, just one little thing. And I think, yeah, you're right, ask for help. And you know, because there are so many people out there that are willing to help. And as human beings, that's something that we like to do. We like to contribute, you know, and so I think, you know, if you feel you need help, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. So so ask, just keep asking, even asking yourself, just ask yourself, because your mind is always searching for the answer, and it will pop up at some stage. You know, your subconscious mind is just unbelievable. It really is. So Ashley, you're working with the Holistic Academy as well at the moment. So your courses are there. Where else are your courses? Where else can people find you?
Well, perfectionist control freak right here. I've had my web designer absolutely tortured. So we went live yesterday. So that is Ashley Tier, I need to remember that. Ashley Tier Spiritual Medium Hypnotherapy.com. I hope I got that right. But that's just, there's the course and all sorts of different services that I offer. I will be working with your Holistic Academy. I'm going to be teaming up and doing some things, personal development, spirituality, and teaming up with wonderful people as well, like yourself, Joanne. It's been fantastic.
Brilliant. I'm going to get all those details from you and put them in the show notes as well, all those places where people can get you, because I think it's really, really important. And Ashley does have a YouTube channel as well, so I really encourage you to, what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Sovereign Spirit.
Yeah, okay. So people, there's really great videos, and they're great insights, great wisdom. So I really encourage you to look that out and be responsible for your life as well, and take back your power. So thank you very much, Ashley. I really thoroughly enjoyed. I knew this was going to be a super interesting conversation. So thank you very much, Ashley, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you so much.